Marius, a grey mouse of the capital city, Bessenui, padded silently down the stone hallway wearing a navy blue cloak with gold trim. It was a cloak of the Knight's Order of Bessenui called La Valiance, and one could deduce that this mouse held high honor and duty upon his brow just by the way that he moved. And yet, here he was in the darkness, in the sewers no less. His name? Marius, firstborn son of Claude Vambray, of the House Vambray, sworn honor guard to the king. The titles go on, but he cared little for them. Tonight was something different. Something had happened. Something far more important than his order. Something dark. He could feel it course through his veins like ice water. The danger was palpable. His journey began from the outside of the barracks. An open grate caught his keen eye, and he chose to investigate. He knew this tunnel. He knew it well, but he didn't think anyone else would be down here, especially this time of night. He had followed it deep into the tunnels, winding under the city, until he found a hallway's end. He looked behind him, then gently opened the hatch covered by dirt that had been disturbed recently. He moved like a shadow into the darkness below as pebbles and sand followed him in as he slid. The darkness was thick as mud, and it was a few moments of striking his flint against steel that he managed a small torch out of some discarded wood that was possibly used in the creation of the tunnel long back. It sparked to life, flooding the room with a warm, dancing glow. The fire in the torch was dim, but the fire in his eyes were bright. What minuscule or massive motive moved this mouse into motion was moot. He had to act despite his feelings. His training told him such. He reached the great city's crypt, only to be met by a dark figure in a similar cloak. He recognized the mouse's face immediately when he turned. "Callum, what are you doing down here?" Marius asked in a whisper, but even the sound of the whisper managed a faint echo. The startled mouse turned and said, "I heard chanting. I thought it was a low hum at first, but folded down here. It stopped when I came here, exactly here. I was too frightened to move for a while, but now, until I heard you. Great owls, I'm scared." "No need to profane this hallowed place with mention of owls, brother," Marius said, half laughing with an outburst of profanity. "What would your mother think?" "She'd think me deranged to even be wandering down here," he trailed off, while his face twisted a bit. "What are you doing down here, Marius?" "The sewer grate was open, you ninny. I was investigating." Marius paused, looking seriously at Callum. "Chanting, you say?" "Yes," Callum whispered sharply. "Like the kind you hear about in most stories your mum would tell." It wasn't clear as to what had upset the mouse so deeply, but Marius knew he was onto something. "Well, two of the Knights Valiants should investigate, don't you think?" Marius started with a wry smile. "I'll follow back to back, and we'll link tails, just like we practiced." It wasn't much to coax Callum to follow. The real challenge was keeping him brave. Marius could feel the tremble through his tail every few steps. This long hallway was lined with bones of many brave souls that fought the first wars, back when there was no nobility, back before the beasts were more common, back when the plagues came. They hadn't gone far before they reached a dead end. They heard the same sound that Callum had described. Indeed, it was a low hum, almost like chanting. Something was there. Soft whispers in the darkness. Marius at last spoke after listening for several moments. "It's hardly a chant. Perhaps the passing of water distant in some cavern," he tried to explain. "Now who's the ninny, Marius? I heard it. It's on the other side of this wall. Look!" Callum yelled out. "The floor has a half circle scraped here. This is a door." "So it is," Marius said, trailing off as Callum pulled at various bones, looking for some secret. Callum searched hard and found a lever made from the leg bone of a dead mouse. There was a slight click, and he opened the false wall slowly. There was pulsing in his ears. Callum's heart could almost be heard along with the pulsing sound. Thump, 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 thump. It went, quickly, steady, until the thumping slowed. It slowed and then stopped. Callum of La Valliance fell to the floor, blood pooling around him. Inside the room, a shrine could be seen. A dark crystal, purple in hue, emanated an even more foreboding glow. It was as if the gloominess around the catacombs was a welcoming fireplace compared to what was around that translucent stone. "So it is," Marius said, wiping his rapier clean. Marius walked in, putting his hat and cloak on a small, familiar table next to some books with little scratches and notations. As soon as he faced the stone, he heard what he came near to hear. In a harsh, whispering tone, like breath on a wind, he heard the voice that had come so many times before, this time with the message he had waited for 12 long years. "It is time, Marius." And Marius smiled.